Good evening, everyone. I'm going to have a bit of a dig at Keir Starmer tonight because I've seen a very recent YouGov poll that came out a couple of days ago, and Labour are currently on 38% vote share, and the Conservatives are on 41%. And bearing in mind this is a government that is quite possibly and quite arguably the worst that we've ever seen in this country, the catalogue of errors that they've made, the crisis that we're in right now, and yet the opposition party are behind in the YouGov poll. Now, the YouGov poll is not necessarily a very reliable source, but it still shows some sort of voting intention. And it begs the question, why does the opposition party still not have more support than this Conservative government that have made an absolute, undeniable shambles of the crisis that we're in and with COVID? We're an international laughingstock, and yet the leader of the opposition does not have the support on the YouGov poll. They should be at least 10 to 15 points ahead of the Conservatives when you think about the track record that they've had over the last few months, over the last year, since January. So something's not right here. And I have to say, I think it's something to do with Keir's stance. Now, I've been quite impressed with the way he's handled Prime Minister's questions. I have to give him that. He's really pushed Boris. He has made him look like a fool. He has questioned him with facts, and Boris has just come back with bumbling answers. So there's no denying it that Keir has done a good job in PMQs. But this idea, and I have a feeling this is something to do with why they are still behind in the polls, this idea of agreeing with and supporting every single measure that the government bring in, I just don't think is working. Now, Keir's point of view is that by supporting the government, it's the only thing they can do because the Conservatives have got such a huge majority that if Labour were to oppose the strategies, it wouldn't make any difference. Now, I get that, but when you have something like the 10 p.m. curfew, which Keir has said this week that he is not going to vote against, but is going to ask for a reforming of that policy, it is I'm sorry, but there's no denying it. It is a fundamentally flawed regulation. We've seen the evidence that it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. We've seen people going out onto the streets partying, people go home drinking, and hospitality are losing out. It doesn't work, and it's not working. And there's no amount of reform that can change that outcome. It's just not going to work. So I understand that Keir thinks there's no point just voting against the policy because it won't get them anywhere because of the majority that Conservatives have got. But when you see a policy like that, which is undeniably a load of nonsense, why would you not say, no, hang on a minute, this is completely useless, it's not going to work in any way? Because it isn't going to work, is it? Let's be honest. It's not going to work. Whatever reforming plans Keir has in mind, it's not going to work. So, I don't see what he has to lose by saying, no, this is a ridiculous policy, we are not going to support it. I just don't understand it. And I know he may be accused of party politics if he disagrees with every single measure that the government bring in. But the 10 p.m. curfew is ludicrous. So why not say it's ludicrous and say, no, it's not going to make any difference, and actually it's doing more harm than good? I think there needs to be a change in tack here. I think Keir's played it well so far, but clearly not well enough, because, as I said before, under this government and the shambles that they've made of this crisis and the incompetence they've shown, it is inexplicable that the opposition party is still behind in a YouGov poll like this. It doesn't make sense. So that something isn't right. So what I think Keir needs to do is start taking more of a stand against these regulations that the government are bringing in, because you can find a hole in most of them. It's not about the regulations. It's not about the restrictions anymore, about lockdown measures, because they don't seem to be working. Let's be honest. What it is about is testing and tracing, which Keir has been doing a good job of trying to pepper the government on. So there's no point just saying voting these restrictions through if they're useless. So why not say, no, we're voting against this, it doesn't work. Here's what we would do. I think Keir needs to be more out there in terms of what he would do and what the Labour Party would do, and suggest those things to the government. And I know he's introduced the idea of getting local councils involved and much more local orientated testing and tracing, because that is undeniably what we've needed from the start. But Boris has been asleep at the wheel, so he hasn't got any clue about it. So Keir's been good on that, but I think he needs to really start saying what he really thinks should be done. So come on, Keir, I think it's time you became more of an opposition leader. And took a stand against Boris, because what he's doing at the moment and this plan isn't working. And as the YouGov poll shows, for some staggering reason, people still prefer the Conservatives to Labour in this instance. And it doesn't make sense. So we need an opposition. So come on, Keir, you really need to sort yourself out.